That's interesting. It's not showing me live. There it is. Live control room. Can I see my comments? There's that one. Does not look like it's going to auto update though. Let's try this. There. Okay. So that's cool. So I can actually check comments that way. Hopefully there, I might actually pull this back a little bit, and that makes more sense. Okay. So what are these shows? So I apologize for just sitting here like a lump and just not talking. I'm looking through all of the notes for license check. I'll pull this back down and then try to re-record it. Do this, decently in the future. So, that giant Gorg, awesome. Or Dororo, that's interesting. And then Love Chunibu. Hello Kiniro Mosaic. Second season. Looks like a Moe show. Oh, no. Google Kiniro Mosaic. So let's see here. Japanese and British girls mixed comedy. It's kind of a light comedy story. That looks cool. Recon. Supernatural ghost thing. Shokugeki no Soma. Food Wars. Full-time chef and father's restaurant. Okay. Gotcha. What else is going on here? Fighting Spirit, sort of a shonen restaurant show, not uncommon. Utano Prince Sama season 3. What is that? Never watched any of that. A band show. So a performing arts school, potential idols. So a reverse harem series, fair enough. Amagi Brilliant Park, amusement park. That looks like fun. Wants to save a park. Oh, and it has Bonto-kun in it. It was a KyoAni show. Gotta check that out one of these days. Dororo. Okay, so that is Dororo. Sweet. Maybe I can finally get a copy of that and play around with it. That'll be nice. Nice to actually be able to watch that. Love Chunibu and Other Delusions. That's that. Right. Dating. Okay, so I have a pretty good feel for what all of these are. I can now do license check. So now I can look at the chat room, which is currently completely empty, because everyone expects us to start really, really late. And I'm early, which is, I'm sure, shocking all of our viewers. Sure enough, my one viewer left. So I will be starting that soon. I'll be starting the license check in around 10 minutes. Meanwhile, we will kind of fire things up here. I should probably check my messages on YouTube, see if anyone has said anything particularly remarkable. The Christian arc in Rurouni Kenshin TV, that's interesting. Should do more interviews. Oh, thank you. That's sweet. And what? Oh, that. A few comments. That's nice, but nothing really earth-shattering. But nice to hear some positive feedback on our interview. That was good. We have the other half of that interview will be coming out soon. On Sunday, actually, I'll be posting that. And hopefully for future interviews, we'll get those video cameras a little bit better color adjusted. Obviously, the center, the kind of zoomed in camera was kind of was a little dark. Hello, Dino Race AE. Dino Race AE. Interesting name. What does that name mean? Out of curiosity, is it some foreign languages or is it a reference to something? Interesting. I'll be starting the license check in about 5 minutes, maybe 10. Something like that. Do I have any? Not too bad. I've got this sort of inflammation going on my cheeks, but it's not too bad tonight. Otherwise, I do that. Well, I don't know why you're watching, but I hope I'll make it interesting for you. So the plan is I'm going to cover all of the anime series that were licensed for North American release in the past month, or in April, more specifically. And I'll kind of explain what the shows are and why you might want to watch them as best I can tell. So we'll see how that goes. Ideally, actually, what I'll probably do is pull up my anime list. It's not a bad idea. In fact, I can kind of zoom in on some of these. Oh, that zooms in quite nicely. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Is it all zoomed in? Yeah, cool. Roro, Tunibio, Glass no Hana, Hibike Euphonium, Lance and Masks, Roka Toyoshu, Kagura, Arslan Senki, Impa Kyoshi, Listen Shall Arise, and others. So Dino Race, if you're still watching, are you into anime at all? If not, we may be able to change your mind. We shall see. Oh, I should probably fix the audio export because that often sounds kind of nasty. So let me get my... Ooh, this is all messed up. Get that worked out. There we go. Plug some stuff in. Is that left or right? It's hard to tell. Where's a little left? Oh, there it is. Tiny, tiny, tiny. There we go. That should fix weird audio issues. Fair enough. All right. So like I said, we'll start license check in a couple of minutes here. Just want to give folks a little bit of time to show up because we've been late so often recently. But I am live and I will do this. It will happen. I'll make sure I don't have anything else sitting around that needs to be taken care of. Cool. Nothing new. Nothing exciting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Cool. All right, so I'm all prepared and stuff. Imagine that. Actually, I might be able to rearrange some of this stuff so it's a little easier for me to fire up. Sensen. Where's Kekai Sento? I know what that is. Tempo Kyoshi. Whoa. And Ghost in the Shell Rise. Where that is. Glass no Hana. It's a shame I can't move all these in groups. Hibike Euphonium. Then Lance and Masks. Then Roka. Then Dungeon Deal. Then Hello Kin Ire Mosaic. Kiniro Mosaic, excuse me. Kiniro Mosaic. I think, okay, there's Kiniro Mosaic. Okay, and I think those are all in order. Dororo, I think. Sort of bunch off. Oh, I think that'll be good. Tweet. All right, so I said we'll start in a couple minutes here. Just get folks kind of in and settled. I'm sipping my cheer wine, which is a soda, not a wine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a Southern soda that I happen to really like. It's the one soda I'll actually drink, and it also helps that it's made from cane sugar. So it's a smoother flavor than your typical high fructose corn syrup. Just tastes better, I think. Nicer. Like a good wine, like a nice smooth wine as opposed to a harsh wine. I personally think. Cool, couple more viewers coming in. So all is well. And we'll see how this license check goes. So the idea here is I'm going to go through the various anime series licensed in the past. Licensed over April 2015, talk about those, and then we'll throw that back up on YouTube as a full thing, as a full video. Not really as a full video, as a chopped up video. So I'll start the show, do that, and then that chunk will come out as another show, and then I'll stay on for a while and chat. So keep your eye on the chat room, and I will continue talking after I've done license check. So let's do that. Oh, I can do a lower third, can't I? Let me do that real quick. No, I won't do a lower third because I want to do that post-processing. Never mind. Okay. That was not the best way of doing things. So let's do a license check. Hey, False Reality. I'm doing quite well, actually. I've been really enjoying today, getting things done. So we'll talk about more of that when I'm done with license check. So, welcome to License Check for April 2015. This is a show where I'll be talking about the anime series licensed in the past month in North America, so for North American release. And specifically, it'll be all of the licenses for April. So, it kind of gives us a nice, convenient chunk there. So, let me go ahead and switch over to our view of that. Is that what it is? There we go. So let me switch over. So we're starting with Funimation's license. The first is Mikagura Gakuen Kumikyoku, also known as Mikagura School Suite. This is an anime series that aired just last month in April. It's based on a song series. I believe it's possibly a video game. I'm not sure. Basically, character enters a private high school and has to, or a private school rather, and has to battle different cultural club representatives. So sort of a fighting school show, which again is currently airing. Funimation licensed that. Also licensed Heroic Legend of Arslan, the currently running adaptation. This is a very long running novel series. There are, let me check. There are, I think, 14 volumes. Yeah, 14 volumes in the novel series. So a lot of content. It's been adapted several times into manga and anime. This is the current adaptation, started back on April 5th. So Funimation's licensed that. Also, Denpa Kyoshi, aka Ultimate Otaku Teacher. This is an anime series about a genius physics student who loses all interest in physics and becomes a NEET, aka a shut-in. But his little sister decides to force him to become a teacher, a high school teacher. And he decides to do that, but he's basically an otaku, so he's pretty silly there. But he's having a good time. It looks like. And basically, a girl has an issue. He helps her with that, and he realizes he likes teaching. So kind of him adjusting to that. I haven't actually seen this, but it looks like fun. Started airing back in April, so Funimation's licensed that as well. Also, Ghost in the Shell Arise Alternative Architecture. This is basically Ghost in the Shell Arise, the TV series adaptation, which again started back in early April. So Funimation will be releasing that as well. Also, I'm trying to remember where. Yeah, so those are all the Funimation licenses. Pony Canyon's been doing some licensing as well, starting with Vitreous Flower Destroy the World D Backup, Glass no Hana to Kawasu Sakai, which is one of these weird concept science fictional. Two characters are fighting enemies called viruses, and then a new girl shows up, which they save. So this is a movie, actually. I don't think has it come out yet. No, it's going to come out sometime this year, but that one is licensed by Pony Canyon. We've also licensed Hibike Euphonium. Got to get that right. Recent KyoAni series about a brass band club member who decides to get back into all that and restart a brass band club. And so recent, like I said, KyoAni series aired starting back in April. So that's also licensed by Pony Canyon. Got that? Yeah, Pony Canyon got that. Wow. Also, Lance and Masks, aka L&M. This has not yet been released. Young man is the last remaining member of an order of knights called the Knights of the World. He hides his identity behind a mask. It looks like kind of a shonen-y action adventure series. It's called L&M, besides Lance and Masks. So it looks fun and interesting. I think this is that's the cover of the manga. So who knows? Should be interesting. They also got Roka no Yusha, which does not have an English title yet. Looks like a shonen-y series similar in concept to Hakenden, in the sense of being a lot of warriors who are chosen by destiny and sort of come together after being chosen. Except in this case, they find out that one of their members is an imposter. It's an interesting idea. So we'll have to see where that goes. I'm quite curious, actually, how all that's going to work out. It's an interesting concept. That started, it actually hasn't started airing. It starts airing June 30th of this year. So that one got snapped up by Pony Canyon. I'm sorry, Rokan no Yusha is also known as Heroes of the Six Flowers, in case you come across that. Moving on to Sentai Filmworks, they've licensed Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, which I've seen the first episode of that, rather fan servicey, but has some neat ideas, set in an MMO kind of a world, fantasy world. Like I said, a lot of fan service, but interesting and fun, and some nice characters and character work there. They also picked up, do I have, yes, I do. So let me pull that back up. So we also got, there we go, Kiniro Mosaic, about a 15-year-old Japanese girl who did a homestay in Great Britain, United Kingdom, and has come back to Japan, but two of the girls she was with have decided to come back with her. Sort of a mixed comedy about Japanese girls and British girls in over here in America. That aired back in 2013, but it has now been licensed by, and who is that? Sentai Filmworks. They've also got Hokago no Pleiades, which is the recent Gainax work, which from the Pleiades, sort of Magical Girl series, and a giant ad for, I believe it's Subaru. They also got Recon, which I don't know if I got. Yeah, Recon, there we go, which is one of these recent spate of supernatural series. So girl can see spirits, and we see how that kind of impacts her life and such. That is currently airing. They also licensed, see here, Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. Teen boy wants to become a full-time chef. Actually, wants to become a full-time chef in his father's restaurant. Fighting spirit, rekindled, elite culinary school, can someone survive, blah, 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 blah. So again, sort of a fairly typical shonen-y action series there, which looks good. The most recent Uta no Prince Sama series. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. I believe it is Love Revolutions, which they've licensed. It's currently airing, third anime adaptation of this series, which is a reverse harem series. So girl is surrounded by a bunch of cute guys, in this case, pop idols. Nothing wrong with that. Did they also get Amagi Brilliant Park? They did, wow. So another recent KyoAni series, back from 2014, where a young man is brought in to resurrect a failed amusement park. Bonta-kun shows up, as is his wont, from which is a Full Metal Panic reference. Bit of fun there. They also got a few other things. Actually, I can switch back on this one. Whoops, sorry guys. We're trying to figure out all these things. They've also licensed Rinne, aka Kyokai no Rinne, which is the most recent Rumiko Takahashi series. That's the creator of Ranma 1/2, Inuyasha, Maison Ikoku, Urusei Yatsura. Some of the biggest, shoujo or actually a lot of them are shonen franchises of the past few decades. So that's your most recent manga series. It's been going on for years, and they're finally starting an anime adaptation of that. So that'll be interesting. They've also licensed My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu 2, which people seem to like a lot, and Vampire Hunter D, the classic anime movie from way back in the day. This has seen a number of releases over here in America. Very popular thing. The novel started in 1983, and the anime film came out in, I don't remember, looking back, 85. So 1985 anime film. There was also another film, Bloodlust, came out in 2000. But this is a license of, I believe, just the original film, which is cool. Glad to see another classic coming back. Moving on to some licenses from Discotech. I don't think I have links for most of these because most of you know about them. 5 centimeters per second, the very well-known Makoto Shinkai OVA will be licensed by them. Also, Giant Gorg. So this is an old Sunrise giant robot series. Back in the day when the giant robot was basically a giant statue god kind of a thing. So less of a robot and more of an object to be directed and sent out there. Indeed, the main character is a boy who literally stands on Giant Gorg's head and kind of directs him from there, which is pretty dangerous, which the show actually gets into as well. It was conceived by what's his name? The character designer for original Gundam, who also did Venus Wars, if you've seen that. So a very interesting giant robot series, one of those shows that comes up fairly frequently in histories of giant robot anime as this kind of interesting side anime series, which kind of push things in interesting directions. Fun thing, I've seen like 5 episodes of it. Also, finally, the license of Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan, the movie. This was a special movie which has Detective Conan and Lupin the Third in it together, and the various characters show up. And I should point out, kind of spoiler alert, not really a spoiler, but it's not so much Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan as is Lupin the Third and Detective Conan. So they kind of work together more than they fight, if you will. And it is really fun, especially when the first time the two of them are kind of together. It's a really neat moment. They also licensed Sonic X. I believe I assume that's not Sonic 10. Sonic X, Eggman has collected all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds. Is about to have absolute power. Sonic intervenes, an explosion, blah, blah, blah. So this is the 2003 to 2004 anime series that they've licensed. Again, Discotech licensing these. They also licensed Library War, Toshokan Senso. Those familiar with that. Kind of interesting series came out in 2008 about a world where, in sort of near future, where all books and media are censored. It's sort of a Fahrenheit 451 thing. So instead of burning books, they're just kind of locked away and censored. And so it's about people defending books, which is pretty cool. And then finally, Discotech also licensed Dororo, which, for those who aren't familiar, let me just double check here something. Kind of curious what's going on there. Yeah. So this is an anime series made in 1969 by Osamu Tezuka, godfather of modern manga and godfather of anime. And it was a very successful manga that he did, I think 3-volume manga. And he adapted it into an anime series of, I think, 26 episodes. Yeah. Which has long been unavailable in America. There's a lovely DVD release of it a few years ago in Japan. I actually own that release. And it's a very interesting series, very dark, very twisted. It's considered the prototypical and kind of the father of the samurai story, the sort of the samurai epic manga story and anime story. So that has been licensed by Discotech, and they will be releasing it over here in America, which is pretty cool. Finally, licensed from Animatsu. They licensed another favorite series. Let me switch over just so you guys can see that going. They licensed Chunibyo Demo Koi Ngashi. Try that again. Chunibyo Demo Koi Ngashitai, aka Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. If you've seen this eye patch girl anywhere, that's what it's all about. You may be familiar with all that. Very popular series from 2012, now licensed and going to be brought over here in America soon. So that's pretty cool. And so that is all of the anime that's been licensed for North American release in April. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was useful, and hope you tune in next month for a check at what's been licensed in the meantime. So thanks all for watching. Cool. All right, that's that. Let me check on the Sonic X license there, Liquidus. Whoops. According to TSSZ News, it is the complete series for Sonic X. There will be a physical re-release. It is the 4Kids dub. There's no news on whether there will be a sub or not. There is news actually. The licensor requested, they got a notice from somebody who claims to work for Discotech, who said that the licensor requested they just do the dub at this time. Discotech asked about a sub, but they said basically, let's start with a dub and see what happens from that point. So we'll see what's going to happen. The problem is, I'm sure Discotech does not have the money to produce a new dub. So I'm sure they license that. It will come out, and hopefully there'll be a sub. We will see. It might be that, and here's where it gets tricky. It might be that if sales of the dub are strong enough, there'll be a sub diversion. So you may need to buy the dub just to show that there's a strong enough interest in the show to warrant that release. And yes, the characters in Vampire Hunter D were designed by Yoshitaka Amano. He actually also did the cover art for all the novels as well. He's been the kind of official artist for Vampire Hunter D, going back to the novels there. On the Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan, I'm not sure what the plan is on that. And the license, let me just double check what they said about that. They will be subtitled at least. This will be both the TV special and the movie. I should have mentioned that. I think the TV special is an hour and the movie is like a little longer. They added a few extra bits. No information so far on DVD versus Blu-ray. So we don't know. I mean, so much anime is coming out on Blu-ray now. That seems an increasingly likely choice. Discotech's been around for a long time, Masa. I mean, they're certainly a trustworthy licensor in the sense that they're there and they do release stuff. They are a small, they're a small time operator. They're not Funimation. I certainly agree with you there, and their licenses and releases tend to be minimal, shall we say? But we need that. That's the kind of thing you're going to get in a niche market like ours anyway. So that's something I have to live with. I'll certainly say when I see that something's going to come out of Discotech, I think, I'm not thrilled. But that means it'll be available. Can't be too picky. I shouldn't say that. Pickiness doesn't get us very far. Yeah, Smoke and Mirrors will be returning next week, actually on Monday. We're going to do a thing on Monday. Evan's not available on Tuesday, so we'll also do a live stream this coming up Tuesday. We're swapping out Smoke and Mirrors onto Monday of just that week. He's actually out of the country at the moment, so we had to move things around a little bit. So next week will be a very, very special live stream, actually. Oh, nice, Liquidus. You got all those sets. Yeah, Sonic's huge. Sonic's a big franchise. So good seeing some of you guys in there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. It's kind of amazing to me as a more old school fan, and I'm not saying this to say, oh, in my day, but it's kind of ridiculous seeing how many things were licensed in just 1 month. That's what, like 24 shows? Check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 episodes, 26 series. Yeah, or 26 different things. That's crazy. And pretty cool that all this stuff gets localized and brought over here in a legitimate fashion that can actually support the anime industry. As awesome as fan subs are, they don't pay the bills, and we had anime studios going out of business, so it's kind of scary, but that's a dead horse. So on the anime front, I'm trying to see if I can share any anime news. What have I been watching? I think there's something I watched recently, anime-wise. Oh, I did finish Princess Tutu, if I didn't mention that on Smoke and Mirrors. So I've watched all of Princess Tutu, which is amazing. If you guys are interested in not just an interesting magical girl series, but also a series that deals with like identity and what makes a story and lots of very postmodern things, very metaphysical things, Princess Tutu goes there. I was extremely impressed. I spent a lot of time afterwards kind of discussing it with a friend, and it's exactly the kind of thing I like, where it kind of really gets into some interesting philosophical and intellectual territory. So Princess Tutu, very impressive. Also more proof that Madoka Magica was not the first anime series to deconstruct the magical girl genre. Princess Tutu did it. Of course, so did Utena. So Princess Tutu is awesome. What else? Not really much. Unfortunately, my drive that I keep all my anime on died a couple of weeks ago, and I've been trying to repair that. So it's a RAID array, and so it looks like 2 drives failed, but I think just one of them really failed. The other one just got kind of corrupted. So I'm trying to repair the corruption, but it's really unhappy. So hopefully I can get that back up. But meanwhile, all the and not just like fan subs, but also I've been digitizing all my DVDs. So a lot of that was on there. So I'm kind of like, I kind of like to get that back on so I can hook all that back up, and may or may not happen. So fair enough, Liquid. So yeah, sorry you can't make it on Monday. Again, our goal is to make sure we're live streaming every Tuesday. Sometimes Evan can't make it on a Tuesday. I'm sure there'll be some times when I can't make it on a Tuesday, but we'll try to do something every Tuesday evening. And then if one of us isn't available, then we'll do something on another day in the week. So we'll try to get that working. So we will see on that score. Do you guys have any thoughts on the Otaku episode with Studio Cosplay? I know we just posted it like 2 days ago, so you may not have a chance to look at it, and we still have part 2 coming. But if you have any thoughts and comments and suggestions on that, any ways we can improve, please let us know. Like right here and now, or just in general for via email and such. We definitely like to see how to make that better. We'd like to interview more people, possibly through Skype and such. We just need to start making those connections. We will see. We'd love to find a Japanese to English native speaker too, so that we could interview Japanese people. That'd be pretty awesome, but no connections there yet. It is surprising though how often you can get those kind of connections. But yeah, so that is, and just so you all know, we recorded that last week. We'd like to do more interviews, but again, there's nothing really lined up. We have a few names in the hopper of folks we want to contact and get and move forward on, but we just haven't had time to move forward on that. Yeah, I hear you, Masa. The lighting on the B camera was pretty bad. Actually, it was just the I think that was my fault. I think I put the settings on that camera wrong. It was set for some other kinds of photography I was doing. So yeah, definitely agreed. I gotta fix that for next time. Kind of embarrassing. That is part of fiddling around and getting it better. I do like our kind of 2-camera setup though. I think that did help. That makes the show a little more engaging for as long as it is. We're just live streaming, it's fine, but when you're trying to really pay attention, it's easier if it's bouncing back and forth. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And like I've been mentioning, we have other shows that we're organizing and setting up. So basically I have to set up sets and cameras and all that for those other shows. We're pretty happy with the with the Otaku set there, with the couches and such, or the couch and all that stuff. So, but what do you guys think? Do you think that's a pretty good setup there? Because that was that seemed to do pretty well. That seemed to help us a lot with all that. And we currently have basically 3 cameras: a webcam, and then a video cam, and a still camera that also does video. so we can do that. The webcam needs a more powerful PC behind it. Hey, Night Sabers, good to see you. So the webcam footage tends to be chunky and blocky, but and a decent frame rate, but not great. Thank you, William. Glad to see you. Good to see you too. I see Night Sabers has found all the emoji. But yeah, so we're just hanging out and chatting now. If we finish license check, like I said, I'm going to slice out just license check and re-upload that as the episode. In fact, I think I'm going to we're probably going to move not move, but we're going to rename the live show to just like a live show. So the live show will just be named the live show for May 12th or whatever. And then once that's done, we're gonna slice out the video of just the episode and re-upload that to YouTube. So you can watch the raw, or you can go in and watch just that chunk later on, which would be nice. Thanks, Masa. Yeah, the that rice paper wall is that's all Evan. That's his stuff, and he set that up, and it looked really neat. We're working on some Japanese cultural show, so sort of talking about Japanese culture and various aspects of Japanese culture, so like Tokyo Tower and hot springs and things like that, as kind of little episodes. And so we set up a version of that set with some other stuff he has. He has a little like Japanese stone garden. I'm forgetting the name of it, but one of those gravel, sand gardens. He set up a little go board, things like that. So it looks pretty cool. So yeah, it's that should be fun. Once we get that spun up, we just have to record a bunch of episodes of that, or at least get that working. But again, we had the same kind of problem with cameras and looking at that, so we have to make a few more decisions before we're ready to launch that and release it and go out. Probably do a bit more processing on the editing. Oh, I can show you guys something fun. So I've been playing around. This is not the final version of this. This is just something I've been playing around with Evan out. I've been playing around with some ideas. So let me show you guys real quick if I can. I think I can actually. Does this let me? I seem to recall there was a way. Maybe not. Okay. I'll pull this up then. Is that it? Whoa, that's it. So let me get this nice and. Oops. Sorry, maybe you can hear some weird audio. Oh, you're not going to get the audio on this, which is kind of unfortunate. And I can't reroute that now. But what I can do is kind of funky. Oh, I need to fix that too. My lights are telling me it's time to start going to bed, which normally happens this time of day. So I'm going to turn those back on. Because, yeah, I have home automation to do that for me. It's kind of fun. So you know Japanese immigrants. Oh, cool. Thanks, Masa. That would be cool. If nothing else, I'd love to interview a Japanese immigrant. That's very interesting. Cool, William. You've seen Gundam. That's awesome. Good for you. And I'm glad that helped. I'm glad that interested you in that franchise. Any more Gundam fans I can create is awesome. Hey, good question. So I think when I initially announced it, I said I would cover licenses and releases, but I looked at the content and realized that licenses is enough to fill a show in and of itself, especially if I wanted to really get into some of that material. If I did releases, then it would go on for like 45 minutes. So I may do releases as a separate show, but I didn't build up the content for that. So that's my fault. I should have been more clear about that. But right now it's just licenses. Cool, thanks, Masa. Yeah, that'd be very interesting. I am Brent at otakunovideo.net. I'm just putting it to the Brent at otakunovideo. If that works. And don't we want to do that? Shoot. Brent at otakunovideo.net. And for some reason, I can't get rid of the stupid thing. There we go. Funky. Yeah, I would like to do releases at some point, or in some way, shape, or form. Again, doing releases is kind of as hard as doing the licenses, where you have to find some way of explaining that. But yeah, that was part of the plan, which I abandoned and then never told anyone about. Sorry about that. So William, you're in luck because you got Turn A Gundam coming out over here in America soon with an interview with Sid Mead. So that's going to be fun. I'm very intrigued to see what he has to say about that. Remember Tomino saying that Sid Mead's designs turned out to be rather hard to animate. Not intentionally, just his design aesthetic is difficult to translate into animation, into traditional 2D animation. So I wonder if Sid Mead has anything to say about that process. Probably not. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't. He wasn't stopping by the Japanese anime studio to see how things were going, I'm sure. So what do you guys think? In terms of license check, do you think, so let me see if I can get this up. Yeah, so license and releases. So would you guys like to see a licenses show and a separate releases show, or one licenses and releases show, which would be kind of longer but kind of contained? What do you guys think? All right, so let me show you this little thing we're working on. I'm gonna do the audio this way. So the audio will be kind of sucky, but you'll at least be able to see it. So let me switch over to the thing and then show this to you guys. There it is. So again, I'm just playing around with this, but this should be fun. Isn't that cool? So again, it's not final or anything, but it was a fun thing to just kind of whip together over the course of an hour or two. Yeah, I could not get into Reconquista in G. I'm sure it's interesting, and I liked what I saw. I liked episodes of it, or elements of it, but I need to go back and just kind of start back up on it again. That's a good point, Masa. So it would be nice to mention the release date if we get that in the license check. So cool. Yeah, we'll try to support this up. So what I'll try to do is next time we do a license check, I'll try to have information for both licenses and releases, and I'll do both of them, but just in I'll do it with both of them as part of the same live show, but I'll just do a license check and then pause and then do releases and go for it. It is royalty-free stuff. That is by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Actually, I can do an overlay here. It's a little simple, but that is by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Interesting. Doesn't show that. Too much text. Okay, so we'll do it that way. So go over to incompetech.com for that audio. It's pretty cool. He does beautiful work. He's got a couple of 100 songs up there now for all sorts of moods and such. So I generally just grab music from that, and we just got to make sure that we credit him. That's part of the license. So there'll either be a little credit in the opening credit sequence, or I'll try to create an end title sequence that says who that is. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I kind of like to play the intro on the live stream so folks know, oh, we're starting the live stream. That'll be kind of fun. And we can talk over that a little bit. And then I've also been playing around with pulling out the video from the live stream and re-uploading that. I think that'll work. Again, we're trying to get better quality video on the output as kind of source video so that we can record something, or that we can post something that is it's a little nicer than the inevitably chunky video that you get out of the live stream. And yes, Incompetech is free. It is completely free. All you have to do is credit Kevin MacLeod as the composer of the music, and you can use it anywhere, however you want, in any way, shape, or form. But yes, that's been fun to play around with that and try to come up with opening credit sequences and such. And so if we can get this down to a science, then we can actually upload. So we do the live stream, we chop out just the episode and then upload that with, again, a short opening credit sequence, maybe some overlays which show you what's going on in the episode, and then an end credit so you know who was involved, which would be kind of nice. So we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, what I'm going to pitch to Evan, and we'll have to figure out the exact technology, is that we'll live stream from one camera and then have right next to it like a camcorder or some other, you know, prosumer level camera recording the video. And then so we'll live stream off the webcam, but then we'll have, you know, a nice quality video we can then upload, or something like that. Oh yes, Gundam Wing movie on UMD. I had a UMD of Metropolis, the movie Metropolis that was released on DVD and UMD back in the day. Hero Machine 3. Let me look up Hero Machine 3. Character portrait creator. Cool. Oh, that is nice. That'd be cool. But yeah, UMD was an interesting idea. Yeah, it kind of worked the way of the Betamax. Yeah, Gundam's kept moving. Well, and I haven't finished Gundam Build Fighters Try. I'm like halfway through that series. So one of these days I'll have to finish that. And that's so much fun. It's just so much fun. And I think Try is, I mean, much as I love the original Gundam Build Fighters, the advantage of Try is that because it's worked its way through a lot of the Gundam references in the first series, the second series can kind of stand on its own a little bit more as a Gundam show. So it's having a little more fun with its own story, at least from what I've seen so far. Will there be a renaissance of theatrical 2D animation in the future? That's a good question. So I'm going to kind of punt on that. I don't think there ever was a time when 2D animation in the theater was a huge thing. I think there's always been sort of a smattering of 2D films in theaters, you know, one or two a year in general. Well, a little bit more than that. But I think 2D animation has always been this tiny little corner of theatrical releases in general. Of course, now you know that's been taken over by CGI. I think so, but again, it depends on how you see Renaissance. I think we're going to see 2D coming back into theaters, especially as we see the technology democratized. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see enough animators who will just go off into a garage and start drawing and release that as a theatrical film, that it's going to make it a lot easier for that to happen. So I think that is much more likely. I don't think it's going to come out of Disney. We may have one or two traditionally animated things out of Disney, but I think they've just invested too much in the digital stream, you know, the workflow there, that anything else is unlikely. So, and, you know, unless again, you know, we may have one or two special films, but I don't think it's going to come back to Disney. And the problem is Disney does kind of pave the way for everyone else. People kind of look up to Disney to see how it should be done, for lack of a better term. So I'm hoping we'll see a groundswell of independent films that do that. We will see. Wow, the Gundam Seed, one of the Gundam Seed movies came out on UMD. That's interesting. I'd love to see how well Gundam Seed did in America, because people didn't seem to like Seed very much in America. It certainly wasn't the huge hit it was in Japan. But yeah, well, and the only way Disney Animation learned how to make Pixar movies was by absorbing Pixar. So, Pixar basically took over Disney Animation, and that's the only way they could make that work, unfortunately. Yeah, Digimon Try is going to be fascinating. Oh, wait, it's going to be a movie series. Interesting. Huh. But yeah, I've always been kind of surprised. I mean, 2D animation is very labor intensive and thus expensive on that score. But I've always been surprised that we haven't seen more independent work by kind of college students, making stuff. Maybe not 90 minutes, but 45, which you can release in a theater. Is it going to be a little weird, but you could find a way to distribute it. I'm surprised there aren't more of that kind of thing, or folks are kind of pushing for it. I would just expect to see more of that kind of thing. I mean, if South Park can be made in a week, and granted that's very simple animation, but that's got a lot of staff now too. But still, it's weird. Yeah, that just seems like a thing to do. I mean, I kind of did that with Other Space Productions back when I was doing an animation studio. So, you need to spend a lot of time on it, but it can be done. And also, I think the other interesting thing is going to see the digital tools to actually like create 2D animation digitally, like with Flash animation kind of stuff. That would be interesting. If that can get to the point where folks can make theatrical looking stuff, and folks have been doing that with Flash for a while, but Flash has been expensive. So once we see these kind of open source and other free or inexpensive tools become available, that might be an interesting direction to take it. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Shirobako is a good example. Although Shirobako is showing you what an anime TV series is like under those pressures. So things are going to be really different if you're a handful of college students who are all spending your free time working on it. I'm not saying there are less pressures or fewer pressures, just different pressures. So that would be interesting to see what the differences there would be. But I mean, see stuff like Ruby, which is basically an independent anime made in America in short chunks. The other difficulty is going to be building up a 2D animation talent pool in America, because they've been doing it for so long and with so many different studios in Japan. There are a lot of folks where if you start a Kickstarter, they can say, oh yeah, it's by this guy who worked on this thing. But over here in America, it's going to be a lot harder to get it in the money to be able to afford that. So again, unless you're willing to spend all your nights and weekends for 6 months or a year. Yeah, I see what you mean, Masa. Yeah, no, that's a good point. The Shirobaka does do a good job of showing all the things that go into 2D animation, which are a lot. So we'll have to see. I'd actually like to see some 2D animation that goes simpler. Grayscale. Try something artsy, see what happens. It's a risk, but you can get yourself out there and done. The other thing about 2D that folks kind of don't appreciate is that if you get an effective staff, 2D is fast. You can produce a lot of 2D very quickly with experienced, effective animators. So you can get a lot of interesting stuff done quickly, and you can do a bunch of iterations on stuff. So you can say, hey, we're going to do this thing in this week and release it and see what happens. Now you may only be able to do a minute's worth of material, but you can get that out and see what folks do. Yeah, I talked about Dragon Ball Super last week, War Fanatic. We'll have to see what happens of it. Yeah, Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball S. I think we can all recognize that this is a an attempt on the part of Shonen Jump and the other people involved in the Dragon Ball Z franchise to keep Dragon Ball Z, the juggernaut, going. I don't think it's due to a dramatic amount of Toriyama's creative interest. You know, I'm sure he'll try to make it quality, but I think this is more to keep pushing that ball down the slope, that very big ball of money. Which again, it's not to denigrate it. It's just to say that I think that's more the impetus. So it'll be interesting to see what the people involved do with it, how far they push it, because you can go in lots of different directions with Dragon Ball, and I'd love to see it go back to the old Dragon Ball style, frankly, the old goofy Dragon Ball action adventure style, as opposed to the more serious shonen fighty Dragon Ball Z. That'd be interesting. I have watched a couple episodes of Sengoku Basara. Thought it was fantastically fun, but also a little too over the top for my tastes, in the sense that I have a difficult time telling myself that it's worth my time to sit down and watch more episodes of that show. I thoroughly enjoyed what I watched, but like there are other things to take priority. I don't think I've seen Sengoku Musou. That up now. Is that an anime or the game? Or is that Samurai Warriors? Okay. Adaptation of the game. Yeah, no, I've not seen Sengoku Musou or any of that. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I personally don't care where it was made, as long as it's interesting. You know, and I don't care if you look like things that are made in another country. I mean, so it looks like anime. So what? You know, is it done effectively? So I'm with you there, Liquidus. Oh, I'm sure they'll have over 100 episodes. I'm sure they'll have hundreds of episodes. I mean, if Bleach can go on as long as it's gone. And again, that's nothing against Bleach, but they will have no problems continuing whatever storyline they want to tell. Dragon Ball Z was the original, we will stretch this out for as long as we possibly can, anime series. In fact, I would argue that it was the first anime series. I mean, there are other anime series that went on for a long time, obviously. But I would argue that Dragon Ball Z was the first one that really stretched it out, that really tried to, you know, hang on as long as humanly possible to its air date. Interesting, Masa. I personally, I would not say My Little Pony is anime. I think it's American limited animation. But I would say it's more American animation than it is anime. I have not seen enough Gravity Falls to be able to, or really any Gravity Falls. So I can't say. But looking at the visual style, it certainly does not look anime to me. But that's, you know, that's my own definition. I'm not saying, you know, we have to agree. Let me fix some of these there. In fact, I can take off that lower third. One less thing on the screen. There we go. Well, William, that is why I will not watch Victory Gundam. Thank you for letting me know that. That has guaranteed I will not finish Victory Gundam. But yeah, I'm with you, Liquidus. I'm a fan of animation. That is what I, you know, I've got lots of animation that I find fascinating, so I don't care. Besides the fact that, again, and we talked about this before, I think that in Japan the term anime refers to animation. So they consider Frozen to be anime, technically. Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I have no horse in the Dragon Ball Z race. That is a franchise that just holds no interest in me, for me. But you know, I would not get super attached to any preconceived notions of what Dragon Ball Super will or won't be. I would not trust the staff to make something awesome. They may. That would be great. I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying I wouldn't assume they will. Um, I have not heard about the new Gundam PS4 game, but then there are always new Gundam games coming out. Anything particularly interesting about the new Gundam PS4 game? I'm interested in pretty much anything Gundam. Let me close a few of these. I've got like 26 tabs open for license check. I do wish there was a way I could download the video as I'm live streaming so I could get the video from license check while I am live streaming. That would just be a lot simpler. Hello, Master Chief Snake. I have watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes of GN Reconquista. Hello, Pete. Pete Fongzevath. Yeah, I watched a few episodes of Reconquista, and I decided I need to wait and watch a bunch of it at once. It's not a show that benefits from watching episode by episode. I just get lost. So I needed to kind of sit down and just watch a bunch at once, which sometimes I like to do that. Sometimes I don't. It kind of depends. $1,143 tabs. That's a lot. Okay, gotcha, Pete. I have not seen any Gundam the Origin yet, so I have not checked out that first episode. I didn't know it had dropped actually, so I haven't seen it yet. Like I mentioned earlier, my storage has been in disarray, so I haven't downloaded any torrents in the past couple of weeks, except for 1 or 2 things. I mean, Gundam has usually done a pretty good job with CGI, so I'm intrigued. I'm not against fundamentally CGI in Gundam, and I'm not against CGI in anything really. Depends on how well it's handled. But I'm actually surprised that Sunrise hadn't moved its mecha over to CGI. I mean, I understand why they kind of have the hand drawn for a while because they just could not get that CGI to look the way they wanted it to, but that just seems inevitable. I don't see how they're not going to be able to move forward with that because it makes so much sense. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but just the reality is vehicles in CGI are going to be a lot less expensive to animate. So the new Gundam game will be a crossover. So it'll be like Dynasty Warriors, basically. I'm not Dynasty Warriors. Super Robot Wars, I assume. It got you, William, but I'm assuming the 3D is for the mecha and vehicles, and it's 2D characters, which is pretty standard for anime these days. I have not seen Kantai Collection yet, but it is on my very much on my radar, so to speak. I'd very much like to see Kantai Collection because it is like one of the biggest things in Japan right now. It's huge. There's a tabletop RPG for Kantai Collection. It's kind of crazy. And it looks fun and cute. But yeah, that's the current hotness over in Japan. I'm currently reading a book called The World Outside One's Head, which talks a lot about how we tend to get kind of weirdly worked up over things in ways that make us very unhappy. And it's teaching a kind of Zen Buddhist detachment, not in the sense that you don't care about things, but in the sense of not getting personally worked up over whether things are the way you want them to be. Kind of saying that's how it works. Have I played any Dynasty Warriors Gundam series? Kind of. A friend of mine had Dynasty Warriors, and I took over a character for like half of a mission or for one mission. So I kind of played that technically, but I'm not a video gamer. And more specifically, I'm not a console gamer. I do not have the reflexes for a console game, or I'm not able to map my fingers onto a controller. So that is just a world that is closed to me. And computer games have kind of moved in the direction of Twitch, which just doesn't interest me much. I'm more of a large command over a lot of controls, more of a player. So space combat simulators were the kind of things that really excited me back in the day, and adventure games and such. But we've moved into, your controls are move and shoot, which just doesn't really interest me much. Yeah, I mean, what I've seen of the Dynasty Warrior games is a lot of fun, and I've watched a lot of the clips of the interstitial, things in the Dynasty Warriors Gundam series, and those are awesome. Seeing various characters from Gundam face off against each other, that's a lot of fun. I think a mix between CGI and hand drawn is fine. I mean, Ghost in the Shell, I think, did it very well. I mean, they had a ridiculously high budget, but it works. Personally, I've not watched. Well, I watched the first episode of Chaos Head and was fascinated by that, but never continued on. Unfortunately, it just didn't really go there. But it definitely, Chaos Head looks interesting. I tried playing the original visual novel, but it kept crashing on me. But the visual novel looked kind of more interesting to me than the anime series. But I don't know. Chaos Head felt a little too like it was I hate the phrase trying too hard, but Chaos Head felt a little too weird and a little too I felt like it was pushing its agenda a little too obviously. I don't know. I have seen a few clips of Attack on Titan. I do not love it. Everything everyone said about it tells me it is not my kind of show. It would not appeal to me, excuse me, in any way, shape, or form. So I am not interested in Attack on Titan. Like I said, I've seen enough of it to say, nope, not for me. Exactly the wrong kind of show for my tastes. So I actually agree with a lot of things that Tomino said about Attack on Titan. Correct. Chaos had the same folks who did Steins Gate and Robotics Notes. All those semicolon titles. They like that stuff. Yeah, no, that's their thing. But they're also really pushing the boundaries of visual novels. They're trying to do very interesting things in their chosen field. So I'm all for that. They seem to take their work very seriously, which is pretty cool. But you find your thing and you do it. Tato. One of these days, I'm going to make a show with my puppets. Tomino said about Attack on Titan that he found the designs of the Titans visually unattractive in a way that he felt detracted from his enjoyment of the show, i.e., it was he felt that they were too disgusting, if you will, and they kind of they were a poor visual choice for a show. And he said he appreciated that they were a metaphor for the author's bullying, but that he found it just didn't it was a bad choice. And he said it was just really dark, and the darkness got kind of overbearing for him, as I recall. So which again, ha 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 for Tomino. But Tomino has a strong feeling about how to do dark. That you can certainly do a very, very dark series, but you've got to do it in a certain way. And also, like he's looking to do less dark shows than he did back in the day. Yeah, Machine Muppet. I have not seen Zakuyo no Terra. I very much want to. Again, just too much anime to watch. But yeah, that Terror looks fascinating. I should probably watch that licensed now that it's available streaming in various places. I should do it licensed. I should do a Machine Muppet at some point. Fun to work out into a story at some point. No, I have watched the first episode of the first Code Geass and stopped there. I was interested by what I saw, but it just didn't. It was a little too silly. I've now recognized the kind of silliness it is, and so I'm up for Code Geass, but I'm just too far behind. I'd have to really start with the original Code Geass. So unfortunately, no. This is the problem with anime: is there are so many anime series out there, and inevitably everyone's watched different shows. It's kind of the reality of it. Like I said, Princess Tutu. I need to finish Yirokuma Arashi. That is. I'm like 2/3 of the way through that, and now that I kind of see where it's going, I can kind of let it go. But it's one of the things I like about anime in general is that there's just so much. There's always something new. Interesting, Masa. That kind of makes sense. It's more of a shock value kind of a series. But I mean, the way folks have described it to me makes it sound more like a shonen-y series about fighting things, basically. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really appeal to me much. Not a shonen guy, unless you're called Rurouni Kenshin. I watched all the live action Rurouni Kenshin movies, in case I hadn't mentioned that. Those were amazing. That's amazing. I mean, the Kenshin films are like, yeah, that's how to adapt anime. And by the way, important point there. If anyone ever asks you, has anyone ever done a good adaptation of anime? Rurouni Kenshin films. You can squabble with certain choices, but that is how to adapt anime to live action, right there. Oh, that's interesting. So the main character gets overpowered in Attack on Titan. Yeah, not surprising, unfortunately. Welcome back, Pete. But yeah, it's Attack on Titan is pretty standard shonen from what folks have said. Which again is fine, just not my kind of thing. Not for everyone. A lot of folks get really worked up over there. Yeah, there are 3 Rurouni Kenshin live action movies, which were, yeah, especially the way they handled the final battle with Sojiro. Wow, that was just wondrous. That was possibly my favorite samurai sword fight in film. Is the final fight with Sojiro in Rurouni Kenshin that is just transcendent. Also interesting seeing how they handled actually the adaptation to live action in Kenshin, how they because there are some things that they changed around obviously because of budget, just because it would be inordinately expensive to stage like the final battle in the second season of Kenshin. That's just so you just shift things around. I think they did a very good job of making it work. But you just how do you do that? How do you rearrange things? Yes, there will be an Attack on Titan live action movie. No, I have not seen the Death Note live action movie. I saw the first episode of Death Note, the TV series, and it kind of turned me off. Same thing with the thing. Well, you should know me well enough, William, to know that I don't think that there's a better for Gundam. I like every Gundam series in different ways. I had not come across a Gundam that I didn't like, except for Stardust Memories. So I don't think they're better. I love Gundam Wing beyond all reason, but it's a weird show. 00 is 00 deals more with things that kind of impact us real truthfully and politically. Gundam 00 is more about stuff that happens to states and to things. So yeah, actually I also read the Death Note manga, the first volume of the Death Note manga, by the way. Yeah, I think just they're very different and they appeal to different kinds of people. I mean, I don't know why there are so many fans of Gundam Wing. Well, I take that back. I think a lot of folks are fans of Gundam Wing because they saw it on Toonami back in the day, and these were all people who would have been Gundam fans, who were General Mecha fans, and who watched Gundam Wing, and because that was the only Gundam available to them, they fell in love with it. That was certainly my experience. But I think all things being equal, Gundam Wing is a weird show to be fanatically obsessed with. It's just it's a weird show. And again, I love it, but it's just bizarre. So I don't know. 00 is certainly a more thoughtful, more carefully structured show, if you will. Yeah, 00 deals more with modern political issues. A good example of the difference is that I had issues with how one of the characters, the blonde, long-haired girl in 00, her relationship with that pilot character. I found it really weird that they were that he confessed what he'd done to his family, and she was not okay with that, but she didn't really freak out. And like that caused me serious, whoa, that was a bad writing choice. But I mean, that pales in comparison to every weirdness in Gundam Wing. So 00 is in a way a little more realistic, and that realism kind of can cause its own sort of weird issues. So it's one of the advantages actually of seeing 00. Yes, I've seen all Gundam Unicorn. In several cases, multiple times. Those episodes. Unicorn was wonderful. Yes, I am well familiar with Unicorn, Pete. But yeah, Wing is weird. Wonderfully weird. But I came across somebody recently who tried to watch Wing, and she watched the first episode, and she had a strong negative reaction to the first episode of Wing. Like, why would I watch a show where the main character threatens to kill a girl in the first episode? And that's where the episode ends. Like, ugh. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I wish you could have enjoyed it. It's like Yeah, no, I agree, Liquidus. Yeah, I'm same thing. My favorite animation growing up was Voltron. So that would have I would have loved Gundam growing up, but it just it wasn't around. But it would, although I mean, Robotech was out, but Robotech was pitched to an older audience, so I always thought it was aimed at older kids. So I remember seeing clips of Robotech and thinking, "Ooh, this is too adult for me. This is too strong for me." So I didn't watch Robotech. But I think if I'd gotten into it at the time, I would have loved it. It came out in I was 6, so that's fairly young for Robotech. For Macross is pitched at a much older audience than that. Big bad Beetleborgs. Yep. Sentai show licensed back in the day. Attempt to continue with the capitalization of the immense popularity of Power Rangers, which I never quite got. Power Rangers was just, well, I didn't know that the Super Sentai thing was a thing, so I thought it was ripping off Voltron. I was like, that's been done before. Well, actually, Voltron was was an anime version of Sentai that went back way before Voltron. Yeah, I think we're all familiar with what Robotech was, Pete. Thank you. Yes, I've seen Macross Frontier, all of it. Not the movies yet, but the TV series. I assume that's what you mean by Macross F. I've seen Plus. I've seen most of Macross 2, unfortunately. I tried getting into what was it? Macross 7, but it was just a little too light and fluffy for me at the time. I think if I went back now, I'd enjoy it, but I was looking for something a little more serious. What else Macross have I watched? Macross 0. Actually, Power Rangers is not based on Super Sentai. Power Rangers is Super Sentai. It was a Super Sentai series. Yeah, no, you've been misinformed, Pete. Super Sentai is a kind of show, and Power Rangers is one of the Super Sentai shows. Power Rangers is part of that thing. If you get the transient facts, then you feel the info high. I was thinking that just today as I was working in my garden, oddly enough. Yeah, Information High is a fun track. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff out there, Gundam wise and such. But yeah, I've been thinking about with Smoke and Mirrors. Evan has seen no Gundam, 0. So I'd love to do some kind of Smoke and Mirrors thing with him, but just that would take us so long to get through any Gundam. I mean, that's a year to get through Gundam, and one Gundam series. So I got to figure out some other way of doing Gundam. But it'd be fun to do some kind of variation of Smoke and Mirrors where we do like maybe 5 episodes at a time. But that's pretty cool. Yeah, Robotech went off the air after a while. It syndicated for quite a bit, but eventually it left the airwaves. I remember when the DVDs came out, that was a big deal because it had not been around for a long time. And the fact that it was finally available was a huge deal. And they kept releasing it in cheaper sets. So as they were doing more releases, you could actually get like the entire Macross saga, the entire each of the sagas. And then, oh my gosh, the digital remaster made it look so much better. That was amazing. Just the quality difference is stunning. Because I have the original release of Robotech, the those box sets, and I mean the quality's okay, but those masters needed a lot of work. So I would have loved to have owned original Macross or original Robotech with all that digital remastering done. It's a shame, but yeah, people forget that Robotech it didn't just come out on TV. Like that was pitched and shown as a show for older kids. You know, it was assumed that you were not really young and watching Robotech, and the advertisements and so forth were aimed at a somewhat older audience. You know, more the GI Joe audience, which was assumed to be kids, 10 and up, really. So, my favorite non-Gundam mecha anime. That is an excellent question. Again, I don't really have favorites. Because I like them in lots of different ways. The one that leaps to mind as just one that I had a lot of fun with is Super Robot Wars OG The Inspector. That was just a really, really fun series. But I've liked a lot of other mecha series. I was blown away by Evangelion when I watched the first like 7 or 8 episodes of that. Obviously, it goes in its own direction, but that was just immensely impressive to me at the time. I have a very huge soft spot for the Full Metal Panic franchise in general. I think Full Metal Panic: The Second Raid is one of the most impressive mecha series I've seen in terms of all of the things that it does in that series and all of the sort of plot points that it executes on. That is if you want to see how to set up and then execute a complete storyline in one series, Full Metal Panic Second Raid is it. That is very well done. Let's see here. William, that would take me the rest of my life. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, Full Metal Panic Fumofu was a lot of fun. I initially thought it was going to be more of a wacky comedy, but finding it's more of a sitcom, very much set in the Full Metal Panic universe was. I mean, obviously, it's wacky, but it's not quite the absurd comedy that I thought it was, which was really nice. I thoroughly enjoyed Fumofu. That was really cool. Yeah, once Robotech got kind of out there, they lowered the prices to the point where it was reasonable. I mean, back when there was initial release, it was pretty expensive, especially considering how many discs you were buying overall. But it got pretty cheap. Other favorite mecha anime series. I mean, I liked Robotech. I liked Macross. That was very impressive. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know. I'm a big Gundam nut. I tend to really go Gundam. Yeah, but Super Robot Wars OG The Inspectors was just an unexpected delight. Just seeing how much they played with mecha cliches, but then how they tell a story with those cliches, like they actually go somewhere with it, was a lot of fun. But it's not taking itself too seriously. It's like, okay, here are the cliches, and we're going to give you the entire cliche. That was a lot of fun. I think of the kind of the weirder mecha series I've seen. Gasaraki was a very impressive series. That's high up there. Oh, and of course, Martian Setzer Nadesico. Nadesico would be very high on the list. Nadesico was, yeah, that might be my favorite. Just because of how much it does, how far it goes. Nadesico is fabulous. The new review website. Good question. So there are kind of two sides of that, William. On the one hand, otakunovideo.net is is turning into a kind of a repository for reviews. Separately, we're planning to launch a new website for a sort of a larger holding company, if you will, a kind of a larger initiative surrounding Otaku no Video and Smoke and Mirrors and everything else that will encompass more content, more videos, and that's going to have the schedule and information about all the shows and point you to past episodes and future episodes and all that kind of stuff. So that will hopefully launch in the next few weeks. I gotta let Evan look it over and do some final tweaks on it, but that should be pretty cool. Yeah, Gunbuster is cool. Unfortunately, Gunbuster I watched at a con, and I didn't get in when it started, so I've only seen like chunks of Gunbuster. But what I saw that was really, really impressive. So yeah, so for otakunovideo.net, I want to make that a general purpose wiki where we can post reviews. Like I'll post reviews, you guys can post reviews. We can build that into a general purpose review website. But again, I kind of need to go over that with Evan and figure out how we're going to do that and how it's going to expand. Yes, I did hear about the crowdfunding campaign to send the Spear of Longinus or Longinus or whatever to the moon. It seemed goofy to me. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it failed. I mean, personally, I think that's a waste of money. Not to rain on anyone's parade, but I think there are more important things to spend one's money on. There are the Planetary Society is trying to build a solar sailor, and they're kickstarting a solar sailor. I would much rather money go into that. It just seems a little sending a Spirit of Longinus to the moon just seems a little too seems to have one's money in the wrong place. I personally think. And yeah, Super Robot Wars is never going to make it outside of Japan. It's just never going to. I was surprised it got licensed on. Well, I mean, Super Robot Wars, the anime was able to get licensed because it just contained Super Robot Wars characters. But the video games, yet no, they were never going to make it outside of Japan. There are just too many licenses to cover. Which is part of the fun of Super Robot Wars is that they're just saying, look, we're gonna make it happen, and it's got a limited kind of release potentially, but that's life. Thoughts on Mars Colony? Sounds cool. I hope it happens. I would like to see more focus on preparation by automated systems before humans are sent there. I think the way to the future is to send automated systems that pave the way, literally, for human habitation, and not just in terms of probes, but in terms of send send objects that can basically 3D print a Mars colony, or can at the very least do a lot of the prep work before sending humans there. That's okay, Matt. NASA. Yeah, I worked for NASA for about 2 years, a little over 2 years as a contractor, and helped out on with a group that was basically connecting businesses with NASA. I got to executive produce a Transformers animation film there, CGI, and built a website around a Transformers themed contest at NASA, and I was able to attend the final shuttle launch as a result of that. So that was really cool. Got to meet Peter Cullen too. Completely stepped over my tongue. I could not talk to Peter Cullen. I was so in awe of him. But we got to chat a little bit. I said I've been watching him since Voltron, and he actually said "Defender of the Universe," and I melted. I nearly lost it right there. It was amazing. No, I've not played any video games since like TIE Fighter back in the day. So no, I have not played video games for like 15 years. It's a good question, Masa. Let me see if the Transformers video is still on YouTube. It was as of like last year. Let's see here. Oops. NASA Transformers spin-off. That is weird. That looks like it. That's it. Let me just double check. Yeah. So it does exist. Let me. How are we going to do this? Because I can't paste in a link. I could do it this way. I have to paste it. You're gonna have to type it, unfortunately. But we can do this. Wait. No. Oh, we can do it down here. There we go. So type that in down there, you know, or do that. That's a good idea, Massa. Actually, I'll put that on talkingtovideo.net. Let me go there and paste it in. So 1 second. Minute. I need, I think it's that. See Brent's Transformers video. I need all of the content though. Let's see. Does that go to the right place? It does. Okay. Let me just save that. Okay. It's on talkingtovideo.net, just under the oops. We gotta type in the CAPTCHA, the anime CAPTCHA. It worked surprisingly well. Yeah, let me try pasting in the watch version. Oh, that does work. I think the Gundam franchise has if anything, gone up in recent years. They're doing interesting things. Unicorn was certainly a successful and well animated and beautiful and interesting Gundam series. Reconquista is trying new stuff, definitely pushing forward in new and interesting ways. Gundam The Origin is exploring elements of the history that we haven't explored yet, which is very difficult. Yeah, and Gundam Build Fighters Try, like I said, I enjoyed that thoroughly, and I think it's been a great way of bringing in new fans, rather brilliant actually, way of bringing in new fans who might not be into Gundam, but can grasp that sort of shonen fighting combat kind of a storyline. So I think Gundam's been doing I think Sunrise and Bandai have been doing great stuff with Gundam. Best anime 2014? No idea. I've watched like 4 series of 2014. As I mentioned before, I don't do a lot of. I'm watching things from throughout history, so I'm not watching just recent series. I'm not the person to ask about 2014. Thanks, Masa. That was a lot of fun to work on, and that is the actual. We were able to get the actual movie model of Optimus Prime from Hasbro to do that. So that is actually really Optimus Prime. And actually, the narration in that episode I wrote. So those are my words coming out of Peter Cullen's mouth as Optimus Prime, which was a tremendous thing. I remember sitting down and we had a phone line into the recording studio while he was recording that. So we got to listen to Peter Cullen recording as Optimus Prime, the words that I had typed into a document at one point, which was pretty amazing. But yeah, so I worked for NASA for a while and then moved on. Worked for Amazon for a while. So, and now I'm just listing my accomplishments. That's kind of selfish of me. Well, Gundam had lots of inspirations, like everything. Everything has inspirations. Nothing comes fully formed out of the womb, much as we like to believe that that particular social myth. But we're all part of a context. We're all connected. So yeah, working for NASA was a lot of fun. Again, it was purely a civilian role. I was a contractor, so I wasn't a scientist or anything. Yeah, I nearly peed myself with Peter Cullen and hearing him do that. It was very exciting and amazing. Definitely a dream come true. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep any of the I would have loved to have kept all of the audio and video and so forth, but I don't own any of it. You know, it's all owned by Hasbro and NASA. Like, I think it's all, I don't know how the ownership works with that, but yeah. But yeah, Peter Cullen's done a lot of narration, a lot of work in lots of different ways. Thanks, Liquidus. Yeah, it was definitely a fun project. Also interesting to executive produce an animated work with a staff that I didn't work with every day. They do some really cool animation work. That whole staff does animation work for NASA. So if you ever see, satellite flybys, CGI animations of satellites and things like that out of NASA Goddard, it's that group. Yeah, it's called an O'Neill cylinder. Indeed, Funk's back after that. But that, I mean, that's an amazingly expensive thing. And those things are like 3 miles long. So just the sheer amount of metals you need. So we're quite a ways away from that. We need a huge infrastructure to be able to mine that materials in space. Builds a lot of balls. I do not watch other anime reviewers, partly because most anime reviewers on YouTube, I won't go there. But mainly because I don't have problems finding anime to watch. There's plenty of anime out there. I don't really need people's opinions to tell me I should watch X, Y, or Z. I can find stuff to watch. So that just doesn't really, interest me. I do follow Philosophaku. His videos are always really interesting. I definitely would love to talk to Crispin Freeman. He's top of the list, partly because he, writes and talks about anime in general, not just voice acting. Who's the guy? Steve Bloom seems like an awesome guy to hang out with. He's just I think he'd be fun to talk to. Other than that, I mean, I wouldn't mind talking to any voice actor, but he's kind of the big one. I did get a chance to talk to just briefly after a panel. I forget but the original voice actor the voice actor who originally played Misty for like the first 200 episodes, because she also played Yukino Miyazawa in His and Her Circumstances, and I was a huge fan of that show, so I was able to go up to her and just thank her for her work. That was an absolutely classic voice acting work that she did. So it was cool just, say, yeah, thank you for doing that, and that she was appreciative. So lots of fun stuff. But yeah, I certainly Crispin Freeman and Steve Bloom are kind of the top of the list. I've not watched Buso Renkin, unfortunately, but I'm trying to think of other interesting voice actors. That's true. Of course, he is getting paid for signing those autographs. So that helps. But they are usually good sports about it. I think what else? I don't know. Scott McNeil seems like he'd be a really good, again, a fun guy to hang out with. But again, part of the issue is a lot of voice actors, they're going to talk about, they're not interested in anime history or anime as animation. They can certainly talk about it, but there is various, there's various stuff that they're actors. Nothing bad with that, but they're just not going to be very interesting to talk to in terms of analyzing anime. That's the kind of thing I like to do. Yeah, I hear you, Liquidus. It's why I like to phrase my reviews as more telling you what's in the show, telling you what's there, as opposed to saying it sucked or whatever. I can give you facts, I can give you information, but I don't have to bash it. The only martial arts anime I really enjoyed was Rurouni Kenshin, if you count that as a martial arts series. I like Bamboo Blade when I saw of it, and Asu no Yuichi, which is Samurai Harem, which again, sort of a samurai series, but not usually the standard martial arts series that I can think of. Mainly because if I'm going to watch martial arts, I'll watch a Hong Kong action film. I have a fairly significant martial arts, live action martial arts, like Hong Kong movie collection. So that is what interests me more than representing that in animation. I think, martial arts is much more interesting to me when it's actually executed in live action. Yeah, that's the other problem, Masa, is that YouTube is more for entertainment than it is for information in general. And by that, I mean that YouTubers tend to get likes and comments and activity if they are more ha 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 than informative. And that's the kind of thing that builds things along. YouTubers just tend to reward emotion and jokes and screaming and things like that more than they other things, and that's what YouTube is. So yeah, Sword Art Online is not on my radar. It's not my kind of, it doesn't interest me. I remember the review I did for Skycrawlers. Yes, I was actually thinking about that one today. Because I was actually thinking about that because I was thinking about thinking back on it. I wondered, could I write a better review of that? And I still cannot. That Skycrawlers review still is the best summation I can think of my feelings on Sky, or what I wanted to say about Skycrawlers. Any good fighter jet anime? Macross Plus. Done. And it's a shame about Skycrawlers. I mean, I know Oshii was trying to do interesting things there, and I know he wanted that to be a deep film, but it did not come across for me. That's life. Pardon me, I'm going to try something. I saw this in line at the grocery store, and I've never seen it before. Tasty Cake Candy Cakes, peanut butter candy cakes, which I'm assuming are like a peanut butter cup I don't know, but I've never seen them before, and I have this thing that if I see a candy I've never eaten before, I have to try it. Yes, there's certainly Area 88, and yes, Yukikaze exists. I would certainly not recommend Yukikaze. From what I saw of Yukikaze, it was very disappointing. Again, Skycrawler's like. Interesting. It's actually a cake with peanut butter on top, surrounded by chocolate. Huh. The cake has no flavor whatsoever, and kind of an empty consistency. So it's there. It's relatively spongy, but it just kind of disappears. There's some significant peanut butter flavor, which is kind of scary, considering how little peanut butter there is in there. So there must be some kind of weird additive to punch up the peanut butter flavor, but it's definitely there. And the chocolate. The chocolate exists. It tastes like chocolate. Certainly not a good chocolate. Yeah, I watched Dot Hack Sign, the first series, and I will say I don't know if I posted a review of Dot Hack Sign or not. The issue with Dot Hack Sign is that it is basically one long prequel to the video games. There is plot, there is stuff that happens to the characters, but it is meant as a lead-in to the plot of the video games, so it ends rather abruptly. Once you realize that Dot Hack Sign is about how these characters evolve to the certain point at the end, but it's not about the plot, I find it to be a satisfying, effective TV series. But if you're expecting it to have a self-contained plot, it very much does not. Let's see here. But yeah, Masa, kind of a tag-along mix of the moon pod. It's a good way of putting it. I will have an opinion about the Robotech live-action movie when I see it. Until then, it's all speculation, and it's just, yeah. 801 TTS Airbots is fun. I watched, I think, 2 of the 3 episodes of that OVA. I know I don't think I finished it, but I watched a few episodes of it, and it was fun, particularly for the fact that one of the characters is an otaku. So it's a very early example of an otaku as a character in an anime, which is fun. But yeah, I don't think, just like with the Ghost in the Shell live action movie, I refuse to get myself emotionally invested in it, period. And I refuse to speculate. I refuse to make any decisions about it until I've actually seen something. Kind of silly. One thing I do want to watch is the live action Kite or Kite, because that looks interesting. Also, the live action Blood the Last Vampire. Because I watched the first like 20 minutes of that, and I was like, "Yeah, this is it's an excellent adaptation of that." Glad to hear that, Masa. Yeah, the Skycrawler's review. I tried to write a serious review of that. I sat down and I started coming up, and I just could not come up with a coherent thing other than, boredom followed by awesome fighting. But yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing about live action is that there are so many variables involved that it all depends on who the director is, who the actors are, what their goals are, what the goals of the studio is. Look at the trailer for the live action Gem and the Holograms movie. People are hating that, and understandably so, because it takes a very unusual premise and turns it into a very generic film. So I posted about Star Wars Episode 7 a couple of days ago, William, because I posted a while back on social media saying that I'd reached what I called peak Star Wars, where as of, I don't know, 6 months or so ago, I grew up loving Star Wars. I consider myself a Star Wars fan for a long time. There are quite a few Star Wars novels back in there, a handful of them. But I'd spent so much time in that franchise that I was kind of like, okay, I'm kind of I want to spend some time in other universes now. You know, I've kind of mined that as far as it goes, and there's only so deep Star Wars can go. You know, it turns into this. Uh, um, I don't know. It felt a little there's shallowness to Star Wars. Let's just be honest. There's only so much you can actually go in terms of depth of Star Wars. Um, and then as they were going through the stuff for the new Star Wars film, the some of the choices for imagery in the new Star Wars film really intrigue me. Some of the choices for like the that like silver armored stormtrooper character, that stopped me in my tracks. I was like, okay, I'm now officially interested. Um, I like the approaches they're taking. Like I said, I'm not anti CGI, but I like the fact that they are actually I like the fact that they're going for practical effects less because I think practical effects are important, but because I think it represents Hollywood. Or not like it represents because it will push Hollywood to reevaluate CGI to say we don't need to do CGI for everything, and that there is a place for practical effects. I like to see CGI. I'd like to see Hollywood step back from the wholesale jump into the deep end of CGI and say CGI is awesome, but we don't need to use it in every single shot. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see where Episode 7 goes. I'm definitely more excited to see those movies than I was before. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, again, I don't want to say I'm excited, but I'm now I've before I was on the fence as to whether I was going to watch them in theaters or check them out at another point. But now I think I'll go see it in theaters. It looks like a fun ride. Interesting point there, Masa. There's yeah, the expanded universe gets pretty crazy after a while. And the other problem too is that Star Wars is ultimately um, early space opera. It goes back to like the 30s era space opera. So it is there's a certain over the top aspect to Star Wars in the sense that it's meant to be larger than life in a lot of ways, and that doesn't necessarily support the kind of massive universe that you can get in a lot of things. It's like Buck Rogers and the other things, which are a lot of fun in small doses, and that really work as a serial that will work in certain ways, but you really can't do hundreds of books in that universe. There's just not enough. And when you try to extrapolate it out, it just kind of doesn't hold together as a whole universe. So the other problem with Star Wars is that not a problem. Star Wars is interesting because there is that focus on the movies. You know, kind of everything has to point back to the movies in some way. It doesn't have to, but everything kind of has to orbit around, inevitably orbits around those movies, which is a fairly restrictive way of telling stories. And yeah, I do appreciate that that Lucas and apparently now Abrams still have this idea that look, we're you can write whatever you want in the expanded universe. That's awesome, and we're not going to be beholden to any of that. We might cherry pick. That's all well and good, but we're not going to try to keep everything consistent with the extended universe because that's just crazy. And that's the right way to do a franchise, especially a franchise like Star Wars. That is a good way of doing a franchise. Say, look, you can go off in your own weird directions, and that's not going to hurt anything, basically. So, Scrolling up, I think. Look, oh, let's see here. Has anyone ever had an anime or something of any other kind of media that made you check out the source material, get into the series in general? Like you seeing the Devil May Cry anime going back. Sure, it's happened to me a lot of times. Let me see here. In terms of for me, anime, Akira was one of the big ones where I watched the movie, then went back and watched and read the manga and was blown away. Brilliant work. Same thing with Full Metal Panic. Went back and read the manga, although the manga is not the source material, but still. Let's see here. But yeah, definitely gone back. And then I've had things where like Rurouni Kenshin and then some other things led me to get interested in the Shinsengumi, the actual, folks. And I've now done a lot of reading about the Shinsengumi. I've watched several live action movies about them. I've read a book about them. So that's become a whole sort of area of interest for me based off of seeing them in, I guess, originally in Kenshin, but it was seeing other adaptations of the Shinsengumi over time. The other thing too is I think canon is problematic. Trying to make everything fit together, I think, is a kind of a false goal. It's or it feels satisfying, but ultimately, I think trying to keep things canon is usually more work than is actually effective or helpful. Oh, there you go, Masa. Yeah, start with Disappearance, then go back and read the books. One of these days, I'd like to go back and check it. I actually do have some of the Haruhi books over in my science fiction section. Kind of weird because I have the Haruhi books are in my science fiction literature section, not in the manga section because it's not manga. But I kind of you kind of think, oh, that's a manga / anime thing. No, it's technically science fiction. Wonder what Disney will buy next, if anything. I mean, understand, Disney has bought 3 studios for 3 very different reasons. Like they bought Pixar because Pixar was full of people who wanted to work for Disney. Let's just be honest. They were all Disney fanboys. So buying out Disney was not a hard thing to convince them to do. They bought Marvel because Marvel was kind of hemorrhaging money at the time. Despite all the successful movies, they needed a cash influx, and Disney provided that. Disney bought Lucas because Lucas wanted to sell. Lucas was trying to get out of it, and Disney was interested, and so they went there. Same thing, actually, similar thing actually with the Muppets. Disney bought the Muppets because Henson Studios was not doing well financially, and they needed been looking to do that for a while. I mean, one of the last things he was working on before he died was possibly selling off Muppets to Disney. So that had been kind of in the works for a while. So my point there being, I'm not convinced Disney is on a buying spree, which some people, and I'm not saying you guys are either, I'm just kind of thinking. Because it is interesting how Disney's been buying a lot of stuff. But I think they've been buying things that have been convenient as opposed to saying, oh, let's buy a bunch of different stuff. Who knows? But maybe they will buy something next. It would be awesome if they bought DC, and then they could do all sorts of crazy crossovers. William, I'm sure Ex Machina was inspired by Ghost in the Shell, but then Ghost in the Shell is a pretty common thing to kind of have seen, especially if you're doing a cyberpunk thing. So that would seem to be a not unreasonable thing to assume that they had come across. Yeah, Masa. Disappearance is not a movie to watch without subtitles or any sort of translation. That is a tough one to grasp. Mm. Especially because there's so much inner dialogue with Kyon, because and you can't see the reaction on his face. He's saying things in his mind. There are several Marvel anime developed by Madhouse. That was done before the Disney deal. So there were at least 3 Marvel anime series produced at Madhouse. Iron Man, X-Men, and what was the other one? Iron Man, X-Men. They did a Wolverine like OVA, I think. Oh yeah, no, the Matrix was very heavily inspired by Ghost in the Shell. They definitely seen Ghost in the Shell, and like Jackie Chan movies too, which you can see in some of the stuff. He learned drunken boxing at one point. But yeah, they definitely had seen Ghost in the Shell, but I mean, the Matrix was heavily inspired by a lot of things. The Matrix was not original in almost any sense. Everything the Matrix did had been done before except bullet time, basically. Which is not to complain, like I said, everything it comes from other inspirations. There's people remember when I'm old enough. I remember when the Matrix came out and folks like, oh my gosh, everything about this is new. I'm like, no, actually, that wire work, yeah, we've been seeing that in Hong Kong action films for a long time. Oh yeah, thank you, cameraman. Blade, the Blade anime series. Actually, really, that's interesting. I should check that out. I love the Blade live action movies. So the plans for Studio Ghibli, as far as we can tell, it's complicated. To understand the context of Studio Ghibli, yeah, and everyone copied bullet time. Studio Ghibli was formed as a place where Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata could make anime. They wanted to, basically recreate their experiences at Toy Doga and toy animation. And so it got to the point where they were old enough and they were like, I really don't want to make anime anymore. So, but the problem is they had all these mouths to feed. So they kept producing various films, trying to find new directors. But because Miyazaki was such a revered name in anime, nobody really wanted to take on that title. Nobody wanted to be the next Miyazaki. So they've been having trouble for the past 10, 15 years trying to find the right format for the studio. So what they announced was, as I can understand it, they are letting go, or they let go all of or almost all the animation staff at Studio Ghibli. The company still exists as basically a holding company that owns all the rights to all the Studio Ghibli stuff. And so like Miyazaki and Takahata and Toshio Suzuki and the others, like all the main heads, like they still come into work every day. There's still work to be done. I'm sure there's still a few animators around, but it is not an active animation studio that's producing a new film every year, or their schedule is always weird. But their job is not to produce new anime films at any sort of common pace. So that is still a possibility. Now the other thing is that, as folks have said, this is the 7th time Hayao Miyazaki's retired. And that is actually accurate. So the idea that they are completely done ever making anime is still an open question. I think it's likely that they will still produce stuff. But they just came to the realization that the problem was they could not find an effective way of making payroll with anime with the kind of quality they kept trying to put into it. it's just really, really a difficult position to be in. And they just, you know, toy doga, toy animation back in the day, back in the 60s and 70s, was part of this giant multinational corporation. They could afford to just sort of keep lots of animators on staff, and they could kind of do whatever they wanted to. Folks loved doing it there. Animators loved working there because they could kind of do whatever they wanted for, you know, months at a time. So it was a very easy place to work, but you can't be an independent company and work like that. You don't have the money to just keep folks on payroll doing nothing for a long amount of time. They're working on their own projects. So Studio Ghibli couldn't find the right way of doing that. So they decided, okay, they'll still open to the possibility of doing that. So the thing about Nadia and Atlantis, there have been analyses of Atlantis and Nadia, and that there are a number of very close similarities between Nadia and Atlantis, closer than 20,000 leagues. So I would agree that I mean I might not go so far as to call it plagiarized, but I would say Atlantis does copy a lot of elements from Nadia as opposed to 20,000 Leagues. So it is fairly close. Kind of like The Lion King is quite close to Jungle Emperor Leo. It's like it's not just, you know, it's like you can point to, okay, this and this and this and this and this, you know, these characters, yeah. As far as I know, there are no Studio Ghibli films currently in development. So Princess Kaguya, I guess, was the last one. The other thing is Miyazaki is in his 70s now. So, you know, I don't know how much energy he still has left. If you've seen the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, which is a documentary about Studio Ghibli that came out, I guess, last year. It was made while he was finishing up The Wind Rises. He certainly still seems spry and capable of doing stuff. The main problem with working on a film, because he storyboards all of them, he doesn't. I think he still does some of the animation, but not much. The problem is that is a lot of long-term work, and I suspect, frankly, people are getting it's getting harder to find investors who are willing to believe that Miyazaki will work on a film for a year. You know, whether he has the energy or not, the idea that he'll be able to keep that sustained work going is increasingly a question. So again, it's kind of a hard thing to say whether that's something they're worth doing. To that point, I could see them doing shorter works, possibly. I find Miyazaki's son Goro fascinating. I was thoroughly intrigued and interested in both of his films. I really am interested in Goro's work. I think the work he's done. I'll put it this way: I find Tales from Earthsea a much more interesting film than the films that Hayao was making at the time. So I think Goro is a very interesting person to watch. I'd love to see him make more films. I think he has a very different approach to storytelling than Hayao does. His stories tend to be a little more they tend to be a little more sort of character driven. They tend to be more about the characters. The characters have more going on internally than Hayao Miyazaki's characters tend to do. His characters tend to be more. Hayao is he comes out of action anime, so his characters tend to drive forward. There tends to be a lot of forward momentum in his characters. We don't get kind of the depth of character that we get in, say, Poppy Hill or Earthsea. So yeah, I'd love to see more Goro stuff. Yeah, and I agree with you there, Pete. I think George Lucas wants to retire like Miyazaki did. I think George has done his stuff. He's getting up there in age, and he's like, I don't need to create more stuff. You know, maybe I can, but doesn't have to. Yeah, and I suspect well, and again, Ghibli's in a weird situation. They have these super successful things that just keep making money, so they can kind of sit there on those rights to those franchises and just keep on pouring stuff out. So yeah, it's kind of weird. So Massa, you just listed 6 films. I'm trying to think what the 7th film would be. Because I agree with you, he certainly directed those, but I can't think what the has he directed anything other than those 6? I mean, you could count the THX 1138 short film, but I mean, that was a student film. But in terms of like feature films, um, but yeah, so Studio Ghibli isn't really in a position to need to make more animation. Maybe they will, but it's kind of it was kind of a vanity project in a sense. Studio Ghibli was or is. Who knows? Yeah. Well, aren't all of Ghibli's movies released on? Well, I guess not Blu-ray. I guess they're throwing them out on Blu-ray. Okay, Master, that's cool. I was just trying to think. Gotta be something going on there. Yeah, I'd be curious to see. I haven't gotten any of those Blu-ray releases of the Ghibli films. Trying to see what's going on with. I wonder what the difference in quality is. I mean, Nausicaa's kind of interesting. Nausicaa's. I just that was old enough. Yes, I've heard of AKB48. I stood outside the AKB48 cafe in Akihabara. Definitely know about them. The reason for that, Liquidus, is that Disney has the license to Hayao Miyazaki's film library and some of the others, but their original contract was for just Miyazaki's movies. So as other movies came out, Disney licensed some of them, but they did not originally license Grave of the Fireflies, and there were others that they didn't do. So yeah, they wanted Miyazaki's work, not Takahata's, not others. So yeah. Remember, Disney licensed Miyazaki because so many internal Disney employees were so incensed that Miyazaki hadn't come over here. There was kind of a mini revolution inside Disney, and so folks started, talking to licensing folks and saying, "We got to make this happen." So Hayao Miyazaki was really the impetus for that licensing deal, as opposed to Studio Ghibli as a whole. That will be a sad day, William. Although, we're always getting new, interesting people. It's always a cycle. Geniru no Olensis. I've never even heard of that War Fanatic one. What is it? I mean, what's amazing actually about Tomino and Miyazaki, when you think about it, is how long they've been producing material. Tomino's been making anime since the 70s, and he came out with a new series, last year? Holy guacamole. What an output. It's amazing. Same thing with Miyazaki. He's been doing stuff since the 70s. It's really remarkable. It's awesome in a lot of ways that we have so much work from these people. What's unfortunate about Lucas, and I know this may sound heretical, but originally Lucas was doing much more intellectual, much more interesting stuff than Star Wars. Star Wars was a hobby. Star Wars was this fun thing that Lucas wanted to do that he thought no one would ever see. It was just going to be his homage to old space opera stories, and it blew up in his face, and that became his, his raison d'être. I wonder, not that I wish we had a world without Star Wars, but I wonder what George Lucas's film output would have looked like if Star Wars hadn't taken off? What kind of interesting movies might he have made? Looking at THX 1138, looking at American Graffiti, I kind of mourn the fact that we never got to see those films. I'm gonna look up this Gennaro series. Gennaro no Ilinsis Tokito. Fictional Future, Olinsis Barrier, 2006. No, never even heard of this 12-episode anime series. Directed by Katsumi Tokoro. Oh, Hisashi Hirai. Well, I thought I would have seen this because I'm a fan of Hirai's art style. Let me check this. Huh, yeah, that's definitely Hirai. Interesting. I may have to check out Gennaro no Olinsis. Thanks for pointing that out there, War Fanatic. Yeah, agreed, Masa. Lucas could have been kind of a Stanley Kubrick. Hello, Chewy. Welcome. Glad you could join me. I'm actually not going to be online for too much longer. It's getting kind of late over here. Glad you could join me. So I'll be on for a little while longer. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Hirai. I'm a huge fan of both Seed and Infinite Revias. Infinite Revias would be another anime series that was technically a mecha series that I liked a lot. I read every comment I get. I have read every comment that I've ever gotten on YouTube. I don't always respond, just because a lot of them are nothing to say. But yes, I absolutely read the comments. I have not seen The People versus George Lucas because it just seemed it seemed unnecessarily adversarial. Hello, Kelly. Welcome. People are coming in late. Interesting. Oh. Huh. A troll. You can absolutely ask me a question, Kelly. I'm always open to questions. Can't always answer them. I wonder, was Gennaro no Olinsis licensed, I wonder? I have to check. Quite a few reviews, so possible. Stats. Where does my anime list licenses, if they do anywhere? You think they do? Doesn't my anime list licenses? No, doesn't look like it. Weird. I've already blocked Chewy. Although I don't know if that actually kicked him out or not. Oh, another one. Subaru, I'm not sure about the new Type Moon. I have not heard of confirmation for the new Tsukihime, but that is a really big thing. So that the whole Type Moon Tsukihime franchise is a kind of a juggernaut at this point. So I'd not be surprised to see more of that. Thanks, William. I've blocked both Kelly and Chewy. Are they still saying things? I don't know if there's actually a way for me to of quote unquote boot them because it's a they're basically just comments. But I'm not seeing either of them now. Yeah, please report them to YouTube and flag them. In fact, now I'm going to have to flag, then boot, then or block, then delete. Must have tripped some flag that's caused some 13-year-olds to come in. But yeah, I don't know, Subaru. It could very well be we will say we will see new Tsukihime. It would not surprise me at all. I mean, considering the first Tsukihime was very badly received by that, but by the fandom, that would not be surprising. Okay, that's good to know, Liquidus. Maybe that just maybe that did kill them. Hopefully, that's okay. But as soon as you you're popular, you're successful when you start attracting negativity and trolls and that kind of stuff. That's when you know folks are paying attention. So and to be clear, Subaru, I don't really follow the that whole franchise. Nothing wrong with it. I just haven't been able to get into it. Again, one of those things that just takes too much time to get into for me. So I certainly have heard a lot of people complain that Saber has kind of taken over the franchise. So it wouldn't surprise me to see that they want to go back to a world that's more, more focusing on other characters. But then, I mean, Saber made them a lot of money. That's what the fans wanted, so that's what they got. That is the world. Type Moon's a neat story, considering there are a bunch of fans who started doing their own work, and then got turned into a whole franchise. That is pretty cool. I always like hearing fans who made good on being fans and on making stuff. The other nice thing is that they were actually like producing comics. Like they were saying, we're telling our own story, and that brought success. That's a pretty cool thing. Right, puppets? That's right. Favorite Gundam protagonist. Again, I don't have favorites. Not really. Because they're so different. Amuro really turns into a kick-ass awesome character in Char's Counterattack. But he's pretty wishy-washy in First Gundam. Then and I mean he's kick-ass just kind of for that movie. The characters in Gundam Wing are again tons of fun, but they're pretty over the top. There's a lot of stuff. Yes, I'm familiar with Kanan or Kanan. I own it. Haven't watched all of it yet, though. I think I watched the first episode. It's very interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to watch Kanan at some point. It's really interesting. And haven't that pronounced. But yeah, favorite Gundam protagonist? I don't know. Again, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, Shiro Amada from 8th MS team was cool in that he was an adult who was very sure of himself and very confident and was just a very normal person, if you will. So that was that was cool. Although actually I will okay, so if we're gonna go sort of favorite protagonist as protagonists, I would probably go with Laurent Sehak from Turn A Gundam, in the sense that he has strong beliefs and he is doing things very much from a sense of trying to do the right thing, but he doesn't have the hangups a lot of other Gundam pilots have. So I had a lot more fun watching him because he would get into fights, he would engage with fights, but he wasn't a whack job the way that Hero was, or Camille could be, things like that. So I think he was the one I enjoyed watching the most. But that also kind of made him a somewhat less remarkable protagonist than others. So again, kind of favorite in that sense, but others are a lot of fun too. Yeah, Kira hit a good middle ground for me. I loved watching a series really grapple with the idea of a main character who is this kind of apocalyptically powerful character, where a character does kind of go OP, and then the world acknowledges that and says, okay, how do we deal with that? What do we do with somebody who is that powerful? And he grapples with that, especially in Seed Destiny. So I found that interesting, especially, and again, Kira being a nice guy, it made for an interesting perspective that he doesn't go off the rails. So that was interesting. My thoughts on Gundam Origin: I have read a good chunk of Gundam the Origin. In fact, I have both versions of it. I have both the original paperback release of it. You can kind of see, I know it's got that bright light, but those are the hardbacks, and then next to them are the paperbacks. I've not read all of it yet, but I was very impressed with that adaptation. I thought it did a very interesting job of compressing and reworking that storyline. Of course, I haven't seen Gundam the Origin in the anime yet, though. So, oh yes, Gundam is parodied in a lot of anime, actually. Yeah, and I agree with you, Liquid. There's some things you're just not going to catch up on. And Gundam's one of those things where I'm kind of surprised that people in America do like Gundam. By the way, that was my manga bookshelves, in case anyone was curious. So yeah, I mean, you never have to feel bad about not keeping up with the franchise. It's not gonna happen. I mentioned this before, but it's like the whole thing about you should watch One Piece. Like I'm not going to start watching a series that's hundreds of episodes long. Yep, I'm familiar with that, Pete. I'm also familiar with Amuro's voice in Double O, and the other various references therein. Yeah, Quattro Bargina was a really fun version of Char. Agreed there, Psycho New Type. Good name. He was a really fun adaptation. And I also like how in Gundam Evolve, they kind of retcon the fact that he started to suck as a pilot as an emotional blockage that he has. I find that hard to believe, War Fanatic. The Gundam Seed Destiny was the most successful anime of the last decade. I doubt that. Madoka Magica would have to be more popular. Because, and I say, or more successful. And I say that because I saw Madoka Magica in department stores in Japan. I saw it was everywhere, much more so than Gundam Seed Destiny. It might well have been the most successful Gundam series of the past decade, though, Gundam Seed Destiny. It was certainly a huge, huge deal. Yeah, Quattro Bargina, or it's late and I can say this, or Quattro Vagina. His last name was at one point translated as vagina in one of the advertisements, actually, which for some reason nobody caught. And you can see this poster, character, and Quattro Vagina. Like, don't think you want to use that pronunciation. Yeah, it did take that cast a while to really nail down the voices in Gundam Seed. They managed it, but that was pretty shaky for a while. It's pretty common for that whole voice cast. It takes them a while to really figure out their Gundam characters. It's one of the reasons it was nice seeing the shift over to I think it was New York Post who did Gundam Unicorn. They did a much better job of getting the characters down early. Again, nothing against the voice actors. It just, I think New York Post kind of figured that out a little more effectively. I don't know, and maybe you guys can help me with this. I don't know why folks would. I don't know why adults would watch hundreds of episodes of Pokemon, except as a thing to have in the room as background noise. It's a fun series. I'm not saying it's a bad series. I just don't understand why you do this when there are so many other anime series that can be much more intellectually stimulating or much more fun or much more actiony. Pokemon's fun and it's all well and good, but it seems weird to me that folks would, try to catch up on Pokemon, consciously and intentionally. Like I have to watch all of Pokemon. That just seems strange to me. But I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding that. Maybe I'm making assumptions about that. That killed the chat. And like I said, I find Pokemon a perfectly fun, kind of inoffensive series. And I like what I've seen, but it kind of seems silly. That the scene with the house on fire and Judo's sister, thank you. That episode and that scene is burned into my memory. That is an amazing, amazing sequence. I remember like every moment of that episode. Yeah, Double Zeta is a weird one, and then it kind of Double Zeta is a clock whose gears do not mesh, and for the first like third 2/5 of the series, it's just there are fun elements to it, there are fun characters, but you can't understand where it's going. And then halfway through in that episodes, all of the gears mesh, and then it starts accelerating and it starts sort of moving on. You're like, okay, this is why this is worth watching. But yeah, so I'm glad you liked it, William, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to post a video of it's one of the reasons why I wanted to post a review of Double Zeta Gundam, because I had that experience. I was enjoying it, but off it goes. Oh, that's problematic. So the Tasty Cake candy cakes that I bought expired May 11th. Unless it's May 11th of 2016. May 11th FBC. Yeah. And they taste fine, and I'm sure this is made with more preservatives than I can pronounce. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I can't pronounce half of these ingredients. So... yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So Pokemon is part nostalgia, and it's part just sort of catching up in the background. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if this was If this was January, I would be a little more concerned. But considering that's 2 days ago, I'm okay. But it's kind of like, well, I bought this today, so the fact that they have expired food in my grocery store, that's more what I'm ew about. That kind of concerns me. So I may have to go back. So maybe the next time I'm there, I'm gonna double check and bring their attention to the fact that they have food beyond the expiration date, because that's not something you should do as a grocery store. And yes, William, that was it. That was the episode I was talking about in my review. The scene with Judo's sister, the explosion, the house blows up, and Judo, I'll be your little sister, and yes, that was it. Digimon is, for various definitions of similar, okay, to Pokemon, and it's pretty different. Pretty different. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Mas. I mean, I like that grocery store, but it is kind of a cheap one, so I'll have to keep a closer eye on them. It's just it's not cool. Yeah. Yeah. Digimon, I am much more familiar with. I own the first 3 seasons of Digimon on DVD. So yeah, that's something I'm familiar with. One of these days, I may actually finish watching season 2. I watch large chunks, but not like every episode, and so I like to go in and make sure I caught all. And actually, I think there are bits of season 1 of Digimon that I should probably finish up. Thank you, William. Yeah, Tamers is amazing. Tamers is also one of those shows that a lot of folks didn't like as much as kids, but if you come back to it as a older and watch Digimon Tamers, you can kind of appreciate some of the stuff that's there. Yes, there was an episode of Pokemon which gave kids seizures, but they fixed it. So several hundred kids collapsed with seizures with an episode where there's a lot of flashing images on the screen, and so that animation was later changed, and so it doesn't happen anymore. It sparked a lot of concerns too about just the fact that oh gosh, our kids are sitting so close to the television and so enraptured by them that they can get seizures. That's kind of interesting. In fact, that is why you now see at the beginning of anime series that text will pop up saying, don't sit too close to the screen, sit a reasonable way away from the screen. That is because of that episode of Pokemon, that right there. Oh, interesting. They put those 3 seasons on Netflix. Cool. So Netflix must have grabbed the DVDs. That's cool. But yeah, Tamers gets pretty dark and pretty interesting. Well, it's kind of an unofficial philosophical sequel to Serial Experiments Lain. So that's a lot. That says a lot. Never got into Savers. Savers just seemed to I didn't like the concept of Savers, the idea that they merged with their Digimon, because that seemed to just be an uninteresting direction to take. But yeah. Oh yeah, Believe Out Phantom is a great one. I like to talk to Crispin Freeman about that one actually, because Crispin Freeman was both the voice of the villain and also did ADR on Believe Out Phantom. So I'd love to find out kind of how he got into it and why. He sounded pretty obsessed with the show at the time. Not obsessed, but he sounded very much into the show at the time. So I'd like to find out what was going on there. But yeah, that's a series I've seen at least twice. Yeah, at least twice. 3D glasses. That's nothing. We can do Google Glass or we can do Oculus Rift, either one. I keep saying I'm going to write a book about anime that help you think, and anime that are a little deeper. So maybe one of these days. Boogie Pop Phantom will definitely be one of the big ones. Boogie Pop is based on a light novel. I own that light novel. I own all of the Boogie Pop light novels that were released in English. They are very interesting. We can do that, or we can go this direction. So yeah, so wanted to mention what's coming up, because I mentioned this kind of at the beginning of the live show, which was many hours ago now. So we'll be doing Smoke and Mirrors next week on Monday instead of Sunday. I mentioned Evan's out of town, so we have to switch things around a little bit. But on Tuesday, I'm going to do another live stream on my own. So there'll be a live stream, special live stream. You have to tune in to see what that is. So yeah, that's a possibility. I'm sorry, that's something we're going to be doing. And then we have other shows in the hopper, but we have to test that up. Thank you, William. I'm glad to hear that makes me interested. I have to write it, which is a lot of work. And I'm writing a novel too. And yes, that is an Oculus Rift. Actually, I do own a Rift. So it was a Christmas present. My parents were very generous and bought me an Oculus Rift for Christmas. So that was my big Christmas present this year, or this past year, which was really, really awesome of them. It is a fun device. It is what people say it is. It is amazing. It's not, the software isn't there yet in terms of there being a huge galaxy of amazing experiences, but yes, it is immersive. If we ever get together, I would love to demo it for you all. Yeah, there is actually an Oculus Rift game where you are in space with various asteroids around, and when you look at an asteroid, it shoots it. And it made me feel a little bit like piloting a Gundam in space. And it made me think, oh, I would love to build a space combat simulator with Gundams. That would just be so much fun. And I'm actually, I spent some time writing working on an Oculus Rift game. I actually wrote a fair amount of code for it. So I did get some progress, but doing something like that was just, it would be a lot of work. Getting it's one thing to have different things moving around and shooting at them. It's quite another to model and movement and get like a robot to move. So that's difficult. And yes, they do plan to have a consumer model of the Rift coming out early next year. So there might be a DK3. This is a DK2. I don't know if they've said one way or the other. Or they could be just it'll go from this to the consumer version, and it's going to be not as bulky. I believe they're going to condense it down a little bit. As to what I use it for mostly, there is an online chat world where you log in and you're wandering around. You're just kind of a head wandering around, and you can walk around, and you're actually using the microphone on your computer, and so you can talk to people in this sort of chat world. That's been an interesting experience I've been playing around with, because you have kind of that closeness to other people. You can kind of chat with them, so that there is a sense of kind of community, and it does kind of work very well. But again, playing a lot of games. One of the really neat things actually has been virtual vacations. So folks will take one of these video camera spheres out, and film while they're hiking through the mountains or while they're motoring past a bunch of sea lions and so forth. And you can sit there and just kind of experience that as though you were sitting in the canoe or what have you. They're short, but they're out there. That's been a lot of fun, actually, a nice way of kind of relaxing. Other than that, and there are lots of other weird things. There are, roller coasters and such. I'm actually going to go in and look at my my Oculus Rift sort of game. I downloaded like every app I could, so there's a lot there. Like I said, games are fun. Some of the other experiences. There's a really cool solar system simulator. So you can sort of fly around the solar system. That's very compelling. And it gives you lots of facts about the solar system. One of the things I really like, which is a fun demo, is that they've integrated Google Street View with that. So you sort of, you plop down in Paris and it pulls up Google Street View for all around you and shows you all that around you. And then you can look at, it pulls up dots for other places you can go. You look at a dot and then it teleports you to that spot and then load Street View around you. So you can basically navigate around, and you can pop up a text box and enter in a location. And so you can basically jump to anywhere in the world and start, walking around in that spot in the world using Street View. That looks pretty interesting, being able to kind of explore someplace virtually. Next vacation I do, I'm going to use that to sort of plot out going from hotel to train station kind of stuff. That'd be a very useful way of kind of getting your bearings for a new place before you actually go there. I'm not looking forward to Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem because I don't play video games. Sorry. Unless that's an anime. I guess you could technically play an anime series on that. I haven't come across any like regular video things because the problem is you got two different screens, or you got two different images going at you. So I don't know quite how you do that and not have your vision cross weirdly. So I don't know. But no, I haven't tried actually like watching movies on an Oculus Rift. Other than like they have a video from a drone flying over Las Vegas, and I'm sure it's completely illegal. But and it's 360 degree, so you can look anywhere you want. So that's kind of cool. So they have that kind of stuff, but I haven't seen any actual like just static 2D stuff in the Rift. Maybe it's out there, and maybe there's a video player for the Rift. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah, and it's what $350. It's the price of a console. It's not pocket change, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Certainly in the realm of reasonable for consumers, which also means that presumably the consumer version will be cheaper than this, which is basically a developer kit. What I hope is that the DK2 I have here will be compatible with whatever they come out with. So hopefully folks who got into the Rift early on will sort of remain reasonably upwards compatible with later versions. At some point that'll die off, but it would suck if the DK2 it doesn't work at all with any of the consumer games. But we'll see. I mean, they haven't promised anything, so possible. Yeah, I would say if you're interested in the Rift and you can find a way of doing it, I would say it is worth getting into it. It is definitely worth the investment. But then I didn't have to pay for it, so. But I would have. Like this was on my to buy list, but my parents just got it first. All right, so yeah, like I said, so we'll be doing Smoke and Mirrors next Monday, and then a special live stream on Tuesday, and we should be back to Tuesdays for Smoke and Mirrors for a while. Again, next week we just have some weird scheduling shifts around. More shows on the way, sort of plotting some things out. I think of anything else remarkable to mention. Is this worth telling you now? Oh, what the hell. So I'm trying to organize a small anime convention, a panel-only anime convention. So this will be a small convention, a couple hundred people, where we just have panels running during the entire con, and that's the only thing going on. So you're not going to have other things scheduled at the same time as the panel you want to see. That's the only thing happening. We're currently aiming for February 19th through 21st of next year. We're going to launch a Kickstarter, hopefully in the next few weeks for that. All of this is subject to change potentially. But this is kind of what we're aiming at. And these are this is what we kind of decided on at this point. So it's not just, oh, let's do it. It's like, no, this looks like it's going to be it. And so we'll do a Kickstarter. Badges will cost $35 to get in. It's going to be in Northern Virginia, USA. So you would have to fly in, whatever. And we're trying to get all panelists who have either done interesting panels at conventions or who have like published articles about anime in academic journals, things like that. So we're going to actually try to do something that's more intellectual as an anime con. Also, hopefully there's gonna be snacks, because that's one of the frustrating things I have at cons is that, oh yeah, feed yourself. And so obviously we're not gonna pay for meals, because that becomes an incredible headache with everyone's food allergies and so forth. But we'll have like snacks and tea and water and coffee and such available for folks, because why the heck not? So that's coming up hopefully in the next couple of weeks to launch the Kickstarter for that and to get folks to know it. We're also going to record video of all the panels and hopefully live stream it. We can't promise live streaming because hotel internet is funky, but we're going to do our best to do a lot of different tests. So hopefully you'll be able to, if you can't fly in or whatever, you'll be able to watch it live as it's happening. And if not, then we will at least post video of all the panels afterwards. So we're still working on that, but we want to let you all know that that's kind of in the pipeline. That's actually not me and Evan, that's me and Nick, another friend of mine. You may know Nick from earlier Otaku no Video episodes from years ago. So that is one of the plans. So that is what something else we're working on. Other than that, in terms of smoke and mirrors and other stuff, next episode the final part of the Otaku interview with Studio Cosplay we posted this Sunday, and like I said, other shows kind of in the pipeline, but nothing ready to release yet. Got to do some more video editing and looking over and deciding how exactly we want to make all those look. So yeah, I think that's where things are. As always, we definitely want to know what you guys think of how we're doing and what we're making and how to make it more helpful to you all. You are our customers and clients, and you're the ones who are actually making all this happen. So that's it. Oh, this is the other thing I wanted to do. Wanted to talk to you guys about. This is actually significant. So part of our expansion of Otaku no Video, part of moving into smoke and mirrors, is taking advantage of Evan's AV equipment to be able to do some more interesting stuff beyond anime. So some of you may be familiar with, I've got it sitting around here, but none that I can actually go and grab. Yeah, you may be familiar with this thing called the Raspberry Pi. It's a little circuit board, a computer on a circuit board about the size of a deck of cards. And it's basically a computer. It has a CPU and HDMI output and USB ports and all that kind of stuff. And you can plug that in, and you would basically have a small computer. You can install Linux on it. You can set it up as a home media center, that kind of stuff. One of the things I want to start doing is a series of classes, basically, on how to set up a Raspberry Pi. And the idea is we would set up classes where we'll show you how to get a Raspberry Pi. It's like $30. So we'll kind of point you to where to get a Raspberry Pi, and then we'll get together online once a week and go through some step in setting up a Raspberry Pi. So perhaps the ideal would be to have kind of your own little personal desktop PC on this Raspberry Pi. So we'll kind of step through that every week. And so kind of to do these classes in interesting tech geek stuff that you're not necessarily going to get anywhere else. And I want to try to do it less as here's a video to watch, go do it yourself, and more as we're all together live doing this together. We're all installing the software together. We're all doing this together on our own individual hardware. So again, kind of let me know how that is. I'm gonna have to. Oh gosh, it's almost 12:30 here. I'm gonna have to get going here in a little bit, but that's something I'd really like to do. And I'm curious as to if you guys would be interested in that. One other way I'd like to do it is to have another tier where if you pay, we'll send you a Raspberry Pi. So we'll kind of find a kit that has everything you need and kind of send it to you. So you have everything you need before we even start. So I mean, we kind of like to push beyond anime to general geek topics. Again, you can completely ignore it if you want to, but it gives us interesting stuff to do together. Because I'd love to watch anime together like we did with the Classic Club, but we run into so many issues with streaming, and that's just getting locked down increasingly online that streaming anime online is just increasingly a problem. Even doing it via private hangouts, while that worked, I think that's going to stop working soon. So again, it would be a way of doing something together, and it would be a way of expanding your all geeks knowledge and helping you all learn about new cool stuff. So yes, that's an idea we want to explore and see what we can do there. So cool, thanks, Liquidus. Yeah, again, it's one of those things that I think would be interesting, and it might get in some folks to do something that they wouldn't ordinarily do, perhaps. No, not to make a Raspberry Pi, to use the Raspberry Pi circuit board. I would love to do a thing. This would be more expensive, but I'd love to do a thing where we all build quadcopters. So we, get a parts list, and we basically buy a kit, or we each buy kits, and we assemble quadcopters in sessions over the course of weeks, and then we have a quadcopter we can fly. And so that's more like a that'd be more in the like $100 range, just because it's hard to find all the motors and all the stuff. Maybe 75. But yeah. To that point, I'd love to do a cooking show. I'd love to do like a real proper cooking show. And Evan has expressed some willingness to help me out with that, to the point of the Raspberry Pi, PIE. So I'd love to do a full-scale cooking show that goes into here's how to make, and not just recipes, but like here's how to cook eggs in a pan. With that, you can make omelets, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, frittatas, all sorts of stuff. But just here's how to cook eggs in a pan. Here's the muffin method. I'd love to do something that's kind of more geek, more explaining the techniques instead of follow these steps. But that's one of those things where I'd love to do that. It's going to take us a lot of time and effort to build. Taping a cooking show where you can actually see what I'm doing is going to require some more coordination than just setting up something at the end. Quadcopters are a lot of fun. I actually bought a cheap drone that I have over there in the corner, a cheap quadcopter. Again, $50 on Amazon. So I have that, and it's a lot of fun to fly around. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it'd be really fun to be able to all of us build a drone as a group. Again, more expensive, but then you have a drone you can fly around and you know what you're doing with. So, yep. So so those are all ideas we have, but again, they're still all ideas. Nothing really there. but we'd love to do some more stuff. So, and that's the idea of what we're kind of going for with expanding this beyond anime. You know, we want to do more anime shows, and there are other anime shows we have in the pipeline that we're testing out. But we'd also like to expand into things like the techniques of cooking, things like Raspberry Pi, things like drones, quadcopters. It's pretty cool what we're capable of if we can keep going. a lot of time. All right, so I am starting to collapse. I'm starting to get a little woozy here. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. So thank you all very much for following and watching along. Like I said, more cool, fun stuff coming. And I hope you guys will keep on tuning in. So like I said, Smoke and Mirrors on Monday, and then a special thing on Tuesday. Thank you, Masa. Appreciate the kind words. Hopefully we can actually get it out for you, actually get those made. And yeah, so we'll see where things are going. So yeah, thank you all. I'm going to head off and collapse into bed. And enjoy, watch more anime, think more deeply, and see you guys next time.